Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
No music here, Ryan? What would Jeremy Dodd at Able Auctions say right now? Let's see the graphic again. There we go. That's better. Can we see the graphic here? I gotta have my music, right? It's my jam. It's my jelly. I have to have it. It's my rhythm.
Yeah, we need the tunes.
It's Wednesday, and all of our guests today, including Farhan Lalji, standing by, fresh off his trip to New Orleans. Brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca, and a Happy New Year to Jeremy Dodd, who helps us so much on this show. Farhan Lalji joins us now from TSN. Happy that his wall. Look at this. The Huskies hoodie. He's got Washington. The Huskies helmet in the background. He's got the beads from New Orleans.
Oh.
Can you describe how happy you are that Washington is on to the national title game next Monday against Michigan?
Yeah, I don't think I could. Truly, I do not think I could describe it. It's happened twice now in my career in broadcasting, only twice, that it's been difficult to be objective. And fortunately, they won, because if they lost that Texas game after leading the way they were, it would have been heartbreaking. But like the only two times were the 2016 Peach Bowl, when they played in the playoff against Alabama, and then the other day, right? So, like the Canucks, it's easy. The Lions, it's easy. Any other team you think I like, I don't. But this is certainly different. So, it was pretty cool. Like, I mean, look, they played well. They found ways. And this has kind of happened to them for a while. I think 8 of their last 10 games, have all been close wins. Mm-hmm. And 8 of them, they've had like a 2-touchdown lead or a 2-score lead and a chance to make it 3 and really deliver the knockout blow. And they don't. They just kind of let the other team hang around, and then the game gets interesting. But then when that final play is needed to be made, they find a way to make it. So it was a good week. I brought Mary down with me. We spent some time down on Bourbon Street and hanging out in NOLA.
Geez.
And then she didn't watch the game, though. She flew back the day of the game. She went to the World War I. Yeah, well, come on. Like, listen, that would be the biggest waste of money, taking my wife to an actual sporting event. Like the weekend of, like the 3 days of, she got, she enjoyed it. And she went to the World War II museum in New Orleans before getting on her flight. But like, you don't want to spend that money on game tickets. Like, that's not going to work.
You didn't buck up for your wife to watch a game like that?
Believe me, she had no interest. She was interested in the game in the city. She hadn't been to New Orleans before, but believe me, it was win-win. Like she didn't want to go to the game. Now, my son, on the other hand, has been busting my chops like literally hourly since the Huskies won about going to Houston. And as you can imagine, the prices are through the roof. So there's still a negotiation taking place. You know who we're trying to get to go? Who? Who's the second biggest or maybe biggest Washington?
Barry McDonald. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, if you need any help with that, let me know.
We're working on it. We're efforting.
Not financially. You know how cheap I am. I won't help you that way. But if you need me to convince them, okay.
Yeah, that part, the financial part, I know.
What do you remember? Like
even Jeremy Dodd wouldn't be able to give you extra enough to turn that over to BMAC. But the last time they won a national championship was 1991.
I was just going to ask you about that.
So.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. It was a split title. It was back in the days when it was just voting with Miami.
It was
There was Steve Antman, who was their big star back then. What do you remember about that? Because I don't think it gets the credit it deserves.
Yeah, that team was incredible. I was at that game when they played Michigan in the 92
Was Mary at that game?
No, she would have been 12. So I was at. They played Michigan back-to-back Rose Bowls in 92, 93 after the 91 and 92 season. So that 91 team with the 92 Rose Bowl, it was an incredible team, right? And then Billy Joe Hobart was the quarterback. Mario Bailey was the key receiver, who was like right there, right behind Desmond Howard. Like he had a shot, at the Heisman, and it was such a good team. And the year before, they got upset. I think it was against UCLA, and then wound up, winning all the rest of their games. I think they were 11-1, and then they beat Iowa in the Rose Bowl. So they had 3 straight appearances in that game. So when they beat Iowa, and you knew the next year you were going to have a chance at a national title, I made sure I got tickets, and so I went down there for the 2 games against Michigan. And Washington and Michigan at that point were kind of the 2 big dogs in the Pac-10 and the Big Ten, respectively. And so my hate for Michigan began then. So now not only are they back in the national championship game, the fact that they're playing Michigan, whose last national title was a split one in 97, this is big. And it's funny because a year from now, they're going to be playing each other in the same conference. And they're playing in October in Seattle. So, it'll become a game that becomes commonplace. But as far as the now and the history, it's too bad the game is not being played in Pasadena. Because, when you think about Washington and Michigan, for me at least, and really for most people around, you think about the Rose Bowl and the tradition and the history that comes with that. And, I think every national championship game should just be played at the Rose Bowl because you go to Houston and you go to New Orleans and you go to these places. These are NFL stadiums. It's a completely different atmosphere. But the Rose Bowl spells college football, right? And you have your little playoff, your expanded playoff, all of that nonsense. But then the final game at the Rose Bowl every year, that would be a really, really smart thing for them to do.
Hey, Farhan, Rick's going to ask the next question, but have I got this
right? Is it about Nathan Rourke or Vernon?
I'm not sure, but Farhan, have I got this right? Yeah. That we could do the next 2 hours on you talking about the Washington Huskies. I think I've got that
about
right.
Their team. We're just talking about history, telling old stories. Like I could talk to you about Michael Penix and how incredible he is, and how he should have won the Heisman, but I haven't done that.
Okay. Well, you know what? Anybody who watched the game, anybody who knows about college football knows that. His arm was on display big time on New Year's Day. It was very impressive. Rick, go ahead.
76% of his passes complete. He was great. I'm not going to ask you about
done, Rick.
I watched the game. I was fascinated. I couldn't turn the TV off. Listen, I'm not going to ask you about Nathan Rourke because all you ever do is give financial updates on how much money he's going to make this week. And that's all you got is how much money he's going to make this week. Never about the fact he's sitting out a whole year.
No, we talked about when he got sent to New England that there was virtually no chance he was going to get to play. It was just purely the benefit was financial. Ironically, right? Trevor Lawrence doesn't play. He could have been a number 2 last week.
Hey, listen. So Dane Evans retired, Lions quarterback. Yeah. So I thought he did a great job backing up Vernon Adams. So where do the Lions go now?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because there's no kind of obvious Dane Evans out there, right?
Yeah.
So and Dom Davis is not necessarily somebody who's going to inspire a lot of confidence in somebody's backup quarterback, right? So, and it looks like Matthew Shills, who's kind of that other type of player, another guy kind of like that, probably winds up staying in Hamilton again. So I don't know that there's an obvious answer, right? They're going to have to take a bit of a leap of faith in somebody, and this might force the Lions to develop a young guy, right? Because as good as they were last year and as many good things as they did, like I hate the thought of a veteran third string plunger to run your short yardage. I don't like that at all. I want teams to be forced to develop, right? And the third spot was supposed to be for that. And teams around the league have made it a short yardage quarterback. And nobody gets better by being a short yardage quarterback. So, might there be somebody else out there? If Drew Brown stays in Winnipeg, could a Dakota Prukop come in and potentially be a number 2? He was just a number 3 short yardage guy in Winnipeg. So, so we'll see where it winds up going, but there is no obvious solution to bring in a veteran backup that you feel good about like you would have with Dane Evans. I mean, he raised his value across the league, right? Where I think a lot of people were looking at bringing him in and potentially paying him more to be like a 1B in a specific situation. So, there's going to be some other quarterbacks around the league who may have to kind of really realize what their place is in the league, right? Is Bo Levi Mitchell going to be viewed by anybody around the league as a starter, right? He might have to, if he wants to extend his career, turn into a 1B, that type of thing. But, I think we're a ways away from that here.
What goes through your mind when you watch, as we switch to the NFL here, watch the Seahawks defense these days?
Disgusting, like just awful. It's funny. Greg Bell, who covers the Seahawks for the Tribune, we were talking about it the other day because he was in New Orleans, so he did the Seattle game and then flew down and got in like a couple hours before the flight. And he said to me, he goes, "It's just amazing just seeing the joy here and just how disappointing everything was in Seattle the day before, because this is a team that has shown some flashes occasionally defensively, but at the end of it all, the same problems they had and were identified at the start of the season come back, right? I mean, we were worried about this team's run defense, and at the start of the year, they were showing some really good things, and at the end of it all, they can't stop the run, they can't get off the field on third down, right? Like none of it changed. And that might have been the game. There was a lot of debate about Jamal Adams and whether or not he was really hurt or whether they realized they were better off without him. And that probably becomes the game where you're better off with him because you don't need an actual defensive back that can cover receivers, right? Like you need a guy that can potentially help against the run. So I don't know how much of a difference that would have made. But, next year they're going to have to make a decision at the quarterback position. I love Gino, love the story, love him as a teammate. Mm-hmm. There's so much good there, but you're never going to win because of him. Like you might win with him, but you're not going to win because of him. So they got to make a decision there. But then they've got so many. The best thing about the Seahawks team the last couple of years is they've drafted incredibly well after like a decade of poor drafting. You've got to take advantage of those contracts. So they need to go out. And I said last year, they made a mistake by not taking Jalen Carter in the draft. As much flowers as they got for taking Devin Weatherspoon with the 5th pick, Jalen Carter was the guy because this team needs to stop the run. And they got to fix the D-line so that they can be stout there. Bobby Wagner's best football is behind him. Don't show me his tackle numbers. His best football is behind him. They probably need to get better there. And make a decision at quarterback. But it starts with being more stout up front in their front seven.
Okay, so we're not going to talk to you, I believe, till next Thursday. So in between now and then is Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Michigan, Washington. Michigan has got J.J. McCarthy, the hockey player at quarterback. Who wins?
J.J. McCarthy, yeah.
Who wins on Monday?
Oh boy,
quickly!
This is going to be the hardest. This is going to be the hardest game Washington plays this season. Michigan is very good. It's going to be difficult for Michigan to stop them, or for Washington to stop Michigan's run game. But Washington can score on anybody. And I am not picking against them. So I will take Washington to win in a close game.
All right. Shocking. Hopefully Mary will be there. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't. Even if I really thought Michigan was going to win, which is probably a part of me that does, I will not pick against Washington.
All right. Farhan, Happy New Year. Thanks for doing this.
It was happy the other night in New Orleans, and hopefully it's happy for one more week. Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
You bet.
Hope you enjoyed your teacher's holiday, Donnie.
Well, if I was a teacher, I'd still be off.
Yeah.
I'm putting in extra time here. Yeah. Thanks, Farhan. Appreciate it. Farhan Lalji.